Should I get started?
Sure.
Okay, so I think maybe this is our second time meeting for these keychain things. The first time we met, I couldn't make it, so Maria had taken over to show us how she did hers. So if you want to quickly review what you went over, you don't have to show us anything, some methods or anything, but just tell me so I know what I can talk about.
Okay, so last week when we met, I showed them the supplies, showed them the paracord. We put the needle through the paracord. I showed them how to put the beads on and get them close, go through the first bead, and then to keep going around every other one and just keep adding on as they went. And then we just kept doing that for the hour that we had.
Okay, so you pretty much showed them the supplies and then got them started on it, right?
Yep.
How to do the peyote stitch and how to start. So I'll go off of that. I will review how I do mine as well. Quickly go through how I started it, but then I'm going to go further into getting to the ends where you are completely done with the beading, which is this piece here. And you're ready to put the ends together and put the leather on and then do the final parts to it. This is kind of the real nervous, sketchy part because it's going to be hard to really see what I'm actually doing with these beads with trying to connect the whole thing once your leather's on, but I'll do my best with trying to make it as clear as possible. So do we have it on speaker view?
It is now.
Okay, there we go. Everyone can see that clearly now, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to put my iPad on gallery so I can see everyone. All right, so these are the two samples that I made. I've never made these before. When Maria gave me some ideas on what we could do next, she talked about these ones that she's made and showed me, and I thought, oh, those are so cool. I got to learn how to make them. So she gave me some of the supplies so I could make some samples and get them ready to teach everyone else how to do it. And it was a really nice learning experience. And I think I will do things differently down the road or switch things up when I do these some more by myself. But I stuck with the patterns that Maria had laid out for us and given us supplies for. And so this is what I came up with. This one here, the purple and pink one, is done using an odd number of beads. And as you can see, it ended up having a different pattern. Like there's 3 purples in a row that slant up. I'm noticing that. It's like, oh, there's 3 purples in a row that slant up in this pattern. And then I got 2 of them, 2 purples, 2 pink, and then it goes, 2 purple, 2 pinks, and it kind of twists its way around, I'm noticing. I was curious because I thought I've never done an odd number before. What is it going to do? So that's what I noticed it does. So it gives you this pattern that looks a little more scattered. It doesn't have a definite lines. And I have to figure out how that works into making like diamonds, arrows, patterns like you can see, some people do on their works. I just did mine. I tried to do mine 1 purple row, 1 pink row. And, that's what I worked. But when you do uneven, you end up moving into the next row with no break. So you're constantly spiraling around and around. So that's why you don't see these definite rows. Now, what I mean by that is these are definite rows, right? You can see a definite white row all the way around nonstop and a definite blue row. That is even number beads. You are going through one whole row of blue beads all the way around, and then you're skipping down, boom, and you're starting another row of all white beads. So that gives me the uniform look of a stripe. Okay, so that's, I wanted to show you the differences in the uneven number of beads and the even number beads patterns. And when you go further into working with peyote and doing your own stuff and making your own patterns, you're going to see the differences and realize what works best with what. You know, some patterns will work better with uneven or even. So after that, doing the body part, I also noticed that my pink one, the beads are smaller. They're farther apart because I only have 9 beads instead of the 10 beads. And it kind of helps this move more. I noticed that too, that this bends really easily. It's more floppy. So I thought, okay, the less beads you have on here in the circumference, the more room for it to move around, which makes sense because if you have more crowded beads, it makes it a little more stiff. This is still, you know, pretty floppy, but I can just feel there's a noticeable difference on the floppiness on the uneven, less beads, smaller beads piece of work. All right, so with that being said, I went ahead and made another sample to get going on showing you the ending part of putting the ends together. I decided to stick with my even number of beads because when you go, let me go back to this other even number beaded piece. When you go down to bringing it beyond and over your leather piece, it's easy to hook it up because, you know, that white row that you're ending up bringing down from these two pieces ends up lining up really nicely, and it goes all the way around. So you don't lose track of where you're hooking up your beads. And it'll make more sense once I get going further down to show you that process, okay? But I wanted to let you know that that's why I stuck with the even number beads, because showing you that process of connectedness once we get to this part is going to be easier to show you. All right, so I ended up having to go through maybe 2 of the arm's lengths of thread, and I'm starting on my 3rd arm's length. I think I went 1.5 arm's lengths. When I go arm's length, I hold it onto my hand and I stretch my thread to my shoulder once, and then I stretch it twice. And I usually use that much thread when I do my work. So just to give you an idea, it took me a good, well, that would be 2 arms length, right? So it took me a good 4 to 5 arms length to do this small stretch here. So it's quite a bit of thread I used. And tying it on is you just a matter of just, you know, tying it on, tying a new piece onto the old piece, and then just keep going, and then just feed the tail back into the work when you can. All right, so I'm going to move this piece. This is where I end. I'm going to move my thread and needle out of the way, and I'm going to start with a fresh piece of thread to sew these together. What I originally did was, once I finished here, I continued using the same thread and needle to sew my pieces together. And then I went back and I used the same thread and needle, and I just kind of went through one of the beads, and then I started connecting it, but that's too confusing too. So I'm going to put that aside. My beading of my body is done, and I'm going to go ahead and sew up my paracord. And I don't think, Maria, you didn't show them this part, did you?
No.
Okay. I'm going to grab a different needle. I'm using a number 11. I probably should use like a 10, but I'm gonna go ahead. This is the only size I have. 10s are just harder for me to thread because of the holes are smaller, but it fits through the beads okay. All right, and it doesn't matter if your knots show at this point when you're done sewing the paracord together. So what I usually like to do is just make a nice, huge, big fat knot on the end. And what I do is I twist it around my finger. Let's see, where are we at right here? Twisting it around a couple times, and I think I showed you this method already. And then just slowly sliding it and curling it off, rubbing it off your finger till it bunches up. And then just grab it and pull. And it makes it a little messy knot, and that's okay. I mean, you're not going to see it anyway. You can pull it tight if you want, but just kind of make it a messy little knot so it doesn't go through your paracord. So when you put it together, you want to hold it as close to the beads, where the beads end as possible, and put your needle through both paracords. And pull it tight. And then you're going to want to do that back and forth all the way down the length of the paracord. And I'm going to start pulling tight because I noticed too that the tighter I pull, the flatter the paracords become. And that's really nice to have it nice and small and skinny. So you don't have a big, huge, fat piece of leather going across like that. This is still kind of wide, but I got it as skinny as I could. So I'm going to just squeeze it and then pull as tight as I can while I'm sewing these two paracord pieces together. They're pretty uneven on the end because one of my rows was longer than the other, but that doesn't matter. This is going to be all covered up by leather anyway, so don't worry about it. The ends don't match. Get it as close as you can. I would say trim it off, but then you have to remelt it, right? Once you trim this, the white things inside become all fluffy and they start pulling out. You got to remelt it. So I melted my pieces there and I'm just going to leave it. All right, so I'm going down as far as I can. It's really hard for me to go through this melted plastic, but so you might have to avoid that part, but I got through pretty good. Now, I was going to stop here. I thought, oh, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to knot it. But you know what? I'm going to spin it all the way around once and twice. And not only that, but then I'm going to go all the way up the body of it and pull it tight and make it as skinny as possible up to where you began. And then go through it again to secure it. And then make your knot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with how to put knots right towards your work. Kind of hard to do on this piece, but I usually make a little circle, put your needle through the circle. So here's the circle, right? Or the loop, I should say, the knot. And you're going to make a triangle. See that triangle? And then you're going to put your thumb where your threads cross, that right up against the material, and pull your string. And that's going to put your knot right next to your work. Look at what I did. I poked my finger. All right, I'll run through that again. It's kind of hard because my fingers get in the way, but I make a circle. I go through the circle. I call it a triangle. For me, it looks like a triangle. I kind of put my two fingers in and I pull, spread it apart. that puts that intersection of that thread right up against where you need it to go in the fabric. Put your thumb on it, right on it, and pull, and that keeps the knot right next to your work. And then you can do that 2 or 3 times and then just trim it off short enough so it won't, pull out or fall out of your leather piece when you got the leather on top of it, just long enough so it kind of stays hidden once you got the leather on. And that's it. This is the string where I ended my beadwork, so that's still hanging out. That's kind of pushed off to the side. Okay, now once you got that all sewed together, you're ready to put your leather piece on. This is the leather piece we have. You can use either side. This is the more rough side. I'm going to leave that in the middle. Or inside, I should say. And it's going to go like this. So you're going to put the leather piece right up towards the top where your beading ends. And then you're going to fold it over like that. That's what it's going to look like. Okay. Now, instead of sewing these, like kissing them together and sewing them like that, if you do that, it's going to keep that wideness about it, right? You want to make it as narrow as you can. So it's just, you just get this kind of nice little flow that comes down from the 2 pieces down into one. That's my preference. I really like how that looks when it's more of a smooth transition. My little snippy things are coming out here. That's another thing. When you want to put your knot, hide your knots, start somewhere else instead of like on the outside or something. Figure out a way to not put your knots right outside because your little snibblies will pop out. But anyway, okay. So what I want to do then is what I figured out worked really good was I folded and then I brought these ends down and then I brought this end, this edge up over it. Okay, and then I sewed. It kind of moves around on you when you're adjusting it, but you blanket it like a little, I don't know, a little, you tuck it like you're tucking it in when you're tucking it in to go to bed. Tuck it in like that. Trying to show you what it looks like, see? And then this comes up over that. So I'm going to take my thread again and make a knot. And you want to make sure that your knots don't show again. Your snibblies don't show again. So what I like to do is I like to, before I fold it in, I go up underneath and I poke from the inside to the outside. It's always about hiding your knots, right? Even though these are going to be beaded over, that knot on the inside is going to prevent any snibblies from popping out through your beads because it's going to be up underneath your leather. So there's where my knot is underneath. I'm going to fold it in. And then I'm going to bring that piece over. I'm going to go through that piece. From the back piece is going to be folded up over it, and I'm going to go through that so I can close that first part of it up. And this will move and jostle around on you as you go. Don't get frustrated about it. It's real tiny work. And at any rate, I had figured out sewing this, figuring out different ways of sewing it. You're going to end up figuring out ways that'll work for you. Okay. So now I want to go to the other side. From here is where I am. I want to go to the other side, but I want to go inside. So I'm going to poke inside. So just find a spot anywhere between, anywhere on the leather that you just wrapped. Poke all the way through till you get to the other side. And this is going to help. Oh, that's hard. This is going to help secure the leather onto the piece. It's going to help, oh, there it goes. It's going to help it stay put when you start beading onto it. Fold your piece over on the other side so you can get through that. Like I said, it's experiment, do whatever you feel is going to secure this piece the best. Try it one more time. I like to use a table too when I poke. And there it comes. See that? It's coming through. So I folded the back ones up and I'm coming through the whole thing. And that's going to really secure that leather piece. So you can so when you bead over it, it's not going to slip off like a sock on you. It's going to stay put where it needs to stay. One other thing that you can have on hand is a little pliers, which I don't have, so I just used my teeth. Okay.
Are you using a Glover's needle, Janice?
No, I'm not, but we can use a Glover's needle at this point as well. The leather that I gave you guys is really super thin. You don't have to keep going through back and forth through the leather and the paracord at this point. I just like to do it at the top just so it doesn't like slide off like a sock. Now I'm just going to sew up and down one side. I'm going to sew up and down the other side.
Okay.
That's a good question. And sewing up and down on one side and the other side is like sewing through butter when it comes to this fabric or this leather. So then you can do whatever you want. You can do a whip stitch, which is what I'm going to do, just to loosely close it up. So your beading on top of it is going to be easier. And you want to just keep taking your fingers and just keep folding it over itself and then sewing. It's hard to do this with a camera on. The camera's in my face, and also I feel like I'm doing it backwards from what I did the last time. And you know how you get to that point of beading where you feel like a certain way, a certain direction works best for you? This feels awkward right now, but I'm going with it. And then here's another method I could tell you to do too. So now within like 2 or 3 stitches, I'm already done with this side. You don't have to go all the way down. You don't want to go all the way down. You need it to be opened up. So give yourself some room, you know, leave about 2 or 3 stitches worth open. Now, what I like to do is just wrap it around to the other side and go all the way up like you did with your paracord. You can do that too. I did not stitch the other side up. You don't have to. I was just showing you what the different things you can do. You can sew it up on both sides. You can wrap it around. This looks really messy. That's okay. It's being covered up with beads. This looks just as messy as what this one is. This is the same exact thing. So never fear. This can get as messy as you want up here. All right, so I wrapped it all the way up to the top again. And I'm going to go through the leather. I'm going to go through the leather and paracord again. No, maybe not. Go through the leather and tie a knot. And that's it. I'm done. I'm ready for beading. I got my other string all in the picture here. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the leather and I'm going to make a knot. couple of different ways for you to do the leather piece, and you'll find your own way. The key is to possibly connect it to your paracord at the top so it doesn't slide off like a sock. Any way you can figure out how to do that, do it. Make sure it's up towards the top where your beads end, like so. And make sure you have enough loop open on the bottom to put your key ring. That's even kind of small, but I think I can get something through there. That's it. And then I'm going to cut this off, not too close, but long enough where it'll be covered up by the beading. Okay, my beads kind of keep sliding up and I keep getting too much of a space between the leather and the beads. I want it as close to the leather as possible. Okay. So only this part is going to be showing underneath your beads. This can be as messy as you want. So figure out how you want to attach it, just as long as it's secure. All right. These are the beads I used. These are number 11s, different styles. I'm gonna start off with a blue roll because I ended up with brown. And as you notice, I've been going, every other row is a blue roll. Okay, so I ended up towards the inside of my bead work, which is what you want to do also. I should have mentioned that too. You want to end up your beads, your peyote stitch. So like if I'm going in this direction, I ended up towards the middle, towards the inside of the V there where they connect. That's perfect because you know what? You're going to go right across with another bead to the other side. So in order to do that, you want to line up your beads and twist them around and move them around. So you are forming a one constant row across. So this bead is up, this bead is down. My next bead will be up and it's going to this one that's down. Can you see that? I hope you can, because this is the part that you really need to be able to understand. It's like putting a zipper together, like Maria.
Not sure. They're sometimes
Look at
they're
your
in and sometimes they're teleworking and they don't give us a schedule, so I don't really know.
someone talk.
Ocean mirror.
Janice, just so you know, I think I muted you on accident.
Okay,
Okay.
ready?
Yep.
Okay, about that. So I'm crossing over from a bead that's down to a bead that's down on the other side. What I mean by down is, you know, how it goes zigzag up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up. I want to keep that pattern going. So this bead is down, this bead is up, this bead is down. My next one that's going to go on my string will be up, because then when I cross over, that bead there is down, right? So move your beads around so you can find that pattern. So I'm going to go with my blue. I got my blue bead on and I'm going to go right across to that down bead that's next door. Like that. And then when I pull it, it's going to connect the two and you're going to have that one bead that's in between. That's going to keep your lines going across smoothly. And then I go with another bead. I'm on the blue row again, right? So there's my little space where I put in that bead. I'm going from one down bead to the next down bead because there's my up bead, right? You're filling in that gap. I could call it filling in that tooth. And pulling it tight. And look at there, the pattern is going across, right? And then you turn it and you go to the next gap, fill it in with a blue bead. Turn it, fill it in with another blue bead. And if you get a little mixed up at this point and think, oh my God, I don't know where the zipper is. I don't know how this is going to get together. Just kind of like move your beads around and flip them so you figure out, okay, I'm at a down bead now. I got to find that next down bead. Oh, there it is right there, right? So I got to get that blue bead right in between. That's going to keep your roll going. Let's see if I got this right here. Did I pull it too far? No, I didn't. And even if you don't match it up correctly or completely, I wouldn't worry about it as long as you can get your beads to go across. Sometimes if you're just learning this way, maybe just use all one color. Just kind of just go across just to connect it. You know, it's not gonna, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, I'm filling in those tooth gaps. I'm almost to the other side. Okay, I got one more tooth gap right here. And then I have successfully successfully attached both sides. Now I go down to my next row. And how do I do that? I go into my blue bead that I put on the first time. If I can get to it, it gets kind of sketchy here because both of your sides are together, so. There, now I'm ready for the next row. Next row is also blue because it fills in, it continues the line, the blue line. You just go to the next gap and fill it in and just keep going all the way across. Once you keep going, you're going to see the smooth transition. At first it looks a little messy, but just be confident that you're filling in the gaps where they need to be filled in. If it gets a little messed up and mixed up and you don't have as many beads on as you started out with, or all of a sudden you skipped a part, it's like, oh my goodness, just get yourself back on track and fill in the peyote beads where they need to go in, where it makes sense to you. It'll all pull together eventually. And if it doesn't, just take a deep breath, pull it apart and start over where you thought you made a mistake. Or where it got messed up and you don't know what to do. You just say, oh, let's just start over. I cannot wait until we can get together and be able to do this all in person.
That would be so nice, wouldn't it?
Mhm. Okay. So I already think I made a mistake in the back. No, I didn't. Oh, excellent. I thought I did. Look at that, how nicely that came together. My blue line came all the way across. That last bead I put in, I thought I grabbed the wrong hole and I didn't. Transition is awesome. Now I'm going down through that first blue bead I went down to get to that next row because we're working with even number, and now I'm ready for my brown row. How much time do we have left?
15 minutes.
Okay, so I'm just going to keep working. You guys, does anyone have a question? I really hope that you could see what I was doing. And like I said, if you want to go back on the videos and rewatch something, you can. But is there a question about the process or anything that you wanted to review from before?
I'm pretty sure I have this right, but with like odd count peyote, you just, there's no stepping down, right? You just constantly keep going
Right.
forward, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's really nice if when you're doing it this part where you're joining the two pieces together, because you want to be able to step down, but all of a sudden you don't have a step down. It's like, oh my God, I'm down to uneven beads. What happened to the step down? What do I do now? Going with the uneven then. That's what happened to, I think that's what happened to this one. I ended up with uneven. It started out with even, but for some reason I got to my blue row there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have a step down. What happened? Just kept going. At that point, I was so puzzled by the whole process. I'm like, I am just going with it.
You know, that's the thing about these wrist keychains. It's the choice of joining it at the bottom, or like I try to explain, sometimes I was joining them at the beginning and just going around in that crazy circle. I shouldn't call it a crazy circle, but you know, it's just deciding where are you going to join your keychain up.
Yeah. Oops. And I had seen some of these keychains, these little loop keychains here that we're making, made differently, where this paracord was the loop part.
Yeah, that's when you
That's
when
when
you
you
sew it together.
yeah.
Yeah, and you beat around it at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know how they had attached that together, but I thought, oh yeah, I mean, all they did was just, they beat it around, they made this big loop, and then they must have just like sewed 1 or 2 stitches right here to keep it together.
What
And then
I've done
or
is,
black, or they actually, no, they beat it all the way around.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So then, but then, your actual key ring is going to go on like this, right? And then that's okay. I mean, it looks nice when it's like this because of aesthetically it looks nice, but
mhm.
this is going to actually be facing the opposite direction now because you've got this loop here. And
Yeah.
that's true. All right, so I am down to finishing up my brown row here, and it's still looking pretty wide and feeling wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm pulling real tight on my beads to get that nice tight, smaller circumference, because I just think that's so nice to have that narrower transition than that huge blocky square that that was on the end. When I first sewed my leather on and started the beading, that's what I had, was a big huge leather square, and I'm like, I don't like that. So I redid it and I tried a different way of sewing it, and I thought, what if I wrap it? That wrapping is going to really help bring it skinnier. So experiment, you'll get it to where you feel you like it and where it's easiest. And then you can show others how you did it. So yeah, this piece was 10 beads around. Oops, I'm down to my last brown one. So now I got to move down to my next row to get to the blue row. I probably won't finish all the way, but I'll get to as far as I can. And then when you tie it off, you just knot it and then you work your tail back in and then trim it off. There's really no need to attach it to the leather. I was thinking, oh, I usually sew when I'm done. I take my tail and I sew through the leather and, you know, get it all nice and secure really good. I don't know, maybe you don't have to do that, or I mean, you can, it might help secure it okay, but I'm thinking it might not be necessary. But I won't get that far to show you, but I could tell you that's what I would do.
I liked your two samples that you made, Janice.
Oh, thank you. I like purple, so I know I had it to do a purple one. And then I like earthy colors and turquoises, so I was looking at my supplies thinking, what do I have the most of that I want to get rid of some more because I haven't been using, and I found these two colors. And I was a little nervous with using larger beads, even though these two beads say size 11 on them. I have no idea what brand these are. I think I got these at a place in, oh, I don't know where, Santa Fe maybe, or Albuquerque. But anyway, I noticed they just seem much larger than the ones that I get on Hanks from Knock Bay.
Do you think they might be like Toho beads?
Might be what?
The Toho style?
Oh, I have no idea. I never heard that before. Toho style?
Yeah, they're more uniform.
Hmm.
I saw them at I think I bought some and they seem bigger.
These ones I notice are less uniform. And the Hanks that I get, you know, it could be the brand also. It could be the round seed beads, or some of them are more uniform than others. I don't know. Oh, the Delicas definitely are more uniform, and they lock together because of their cylindrical feature. But
Yep.
these ones, they're considered round seed beads, but I mean, they just got a different shape to them, different size, much larger. It took me about, let's see, I wrote down the numbers. I can't remember. The first one, it took me about 6.5 hours to do because I was trying to figure, what took me the longest was connecting the two ends, you know, the beading part. I had to redo it like 3 times. But then second one I did, I think I had it all done within like 5 hours. From beginning to end. I had to sit it down here and there, but when I sit it down, I always note how many hours and minutes I've put into it so I can record it. And I always like to figure out how long it takes me to make a piece so I can figure out how to price it, or if someone asks me, you know, how long, oh, you know, that question, how long did it take you to do that? I used to always say, oh my God, I don't know. I don't keep track of that. And now it's like I've learned to keep track of it because for that question. Well, and not only that, most importantly, so you know how much time you put, you know, how much money you can charge, because your time is valuable, right?
Right.
And people don't understand the work and the time put into beadwork, especially when you're doing peyote stitch, doing it one at a time.
Yeah, it does take longer.
Yeah. I was looking at a piece thinking, wow, so how many beads is that per minute that I put on? 'Cause you can actually calculate it, really, if you know how many beads you start out with and how many you end up with. But who's counting, right?
That's more counting than I want to do.
Exactly. So I'm going to go down as far as where my thread is wrapped around. If you don't want to go down that far, don't wrap that far, but I don't think maybe I'll pull it up a little bit more. No, that's okay. I'll go down to as far as the thread is. And that'll give me plenty of space to put on my key ring. Oh, you can also put your key ring on when you're sewing this too. I should have said that. It was kind of a little hard for me to do it, but opening it up with your fingers like that and
Oh
then
yeah.
it on, I thought, why didn't I put it on before I closed it up? But I mean, it's not too hard to do. You just kind of keep it separated and you just pull it on and turn it. And there you have it. And it helps when you don't have it on while you're beading too. So
Yeah, I would think it would get in the way.
yeah, I shouldn't have put it on because now it's going to be in the way, but I wanted to show you guys. I think what's going to happen, I would love to talk with the library to find out what talk to you guys, find out what your plans are as far as when in-persons might begin again. And then if that does start happening, I would be more than happy to, bring on my samples I've done during these Zoom sessions and possibly redo certain ones with people in person individually if they want, when we meet up. And I'd have my sample right with me and we can do that because it's so much easier to show people in person how to do some of this stuff.
Yeah, it sure is.
Mm-hmm. I have been able to meet up with some of my clients in person, which is nice. We still do it, distance. We sit across the table from each other when I do art therapy. Still wear our masks, but at least we're able to be together in person, and it's just wonderful. It's a great feeling. And it worries me that someone might get frustrated because they can't do it. So it worries me when we're doing this over the screen online because, this is supposed to be a really relaxing time for us and a time to share in community and discussion and creativity and just to breathe together. So I just want to stress to try not to let it frustrate you too much and know that in-person help will be available down the road, and just be patient with yourself and gentle, and maybe put it away until there is a time for us to meet. And just don't get frustrated. I would hate for you to have to be turned off on the whole thing and say, oh, I gave it a try but it just didn't work. Well, these circumstances we're under are not really beneficial for success at tackling a difficult, intricate type of activity. So be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, be patient to yourself, and know that, community and people are here for each other for in-person stuff when the time is safe and right and we're ready to move into a more normal existence together. Because I would love to meet up with people in person to show them things in person and when it's time. Okay, I am down to, I get way far down thinking I'm almost done and I look and it's like, oh my gosh, I still got like 3 or 4 rows to go. But look at how very nice that's turning out. It looks like the blue row went right across where it's supposed to. And then the brown row continued. So I've got a really nice transition. Yay, I'm happy that turned out. I was a little concerned going into this thinking, oh, please, please, please let it turn out. Like I said, though, if it wasn't going to turn out, I was just going to go with it.
Right.
How's the rest of you guys doing on your pieces?
Oh, I did not bead this weekend. Well, actually I did something different beading. And so I started this one last night. I got really frustrated with my color choices. I think I told you I lost my color mojo. So then I tried different colors and I have my little pattern and my solids.
Oh, that's beautiful. Nice. So you didn't actually have to sew your leather together or what?
No,
No,
I did.
going-
I did that while you were
Oh, okay.
demonstrating.
Got it. So were you able to figure out a way just that works for you then?
Yeah, I did it similar to what you did. I usually sew up the paracord and then try and sew up the leather as tight as possible so it's not so bulky at the bottom.
Yeah.
But I'm almost out of string again, so I'm like, oh, drat.
Oh, don't you hate that when that happens?
Yeah, I'm not far enough. I have not enough thread to make it all the way around to like right here where my paracord ends. So yeah,
Bummer.
you're gonna have to get more thread again.
That's a good time to stop, right?
Yep, always a good time to stop when you run out.
Yeah. Who else is beating?
I think Bethany was doing something.
Bethany, how are you doing? Do you want to show some of your stuff?
Sure. I'm actually, well, I didn't take one of the kits and all my paracords at home and I haven't been home, but I jumped on the key ring or the keychain wagon that we did last time. So I finished these ones, these little guys.
Nice.
And then today I've been working on, I don't really have a plan in mind. It's just I wanted to use this pink bead. So I'm just kind of winging it and seeing if a pattern comes out of it.
Nice.
So that's what I've been doing.
Awesome. Are you doing even or uneven?
Even when you showed us that one really clicked with me. And I want to try the odd count, so I might have to do that on the next one, but
Yeah,
I'm
give
just
it a
sticking
try.
with what I know right now.
And see what it's like and the possibilities and stuff. They'll come to you. Nice. Who else do we have here? Is it Denise?
Yeah, she's at the desk. I don't know if she can hear. She
And
was
what-
working on something last week.
Okay. What about Molly? Did we lose her?
Mary? Yeah, we lost Mary and Denise. Or I'm sorry, Mary and Dolly.
Dolly.
She put her camera on. Okay.
Hi, Denise.
Hey, Denise, I'm gonna add you. Here we go.
Oh,
Of course.
she's on the phone.
All right, so well, we're pretty much at the end, out of time. I've still got a couple rows to go, but what I'm going to do when I'm done then is I don't feel the need to secure it. I might just go through the leather once from one side to the other and then take it and sew up through the beads to a different spot. Well, actually tie a knot and then sew up through the beads to a different spot. and then cut it off there. So yeah, I've got a couple more rows to go because I want to cover up this thread. Normally I might not have gone all that way, but I couldn't get my thread to move up because I tied it so tight. So I got to go all the way down. So, and then I'm gonna, you know, tie a knot around my piece here, my thread that's in the beads. I'm gonna tie the knot there, and then I'm gonna poke my needle through the leather inside underneath the beads so you don't see it till it comes out the back. And then I'm gonna kind of feed my needle all the way up, you know, in, out, in, out, in, out, and then cut it off somewhere else. And then I'll be done. Okay. So, whew, thank you for joining. It's good to see everyone. It's a nice discussion. Appreciate you guys sharing your work, and thank you for any of the comments, any suggestions, and I look forward to the time that we meet again.